Hi and welcome to another Checiegirl Creations DIY videos. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'll be showing you how to make jersey yarn. Now, I did this one just to kind of refresh my memory, and I kind of wish I had actually done this one for the video. I'll explain why in a second. So this is just from a white like jersey t-shirt, and you see how it kind of curls in on itself, because when it's flat, when you cut the strips, and you'll see when I'm doing this t-shirt here, it's all flat, and then to make it curl on itself you just kind of pull it and it curls in nicely, like when you stretch it. And I did, because I had two of these t-shirts that were dyed quite a while ago, just with like a tie-dye kit. And if you want to dye your t-shirts before, and you can dye your t-shirts either before or after you cut it. I think it's easier to do it before you cut it. I have done it years and years and years ago, and I dyed it afterwards because I actually decided that I wanted coloured yarn. But so, and if you do want to dye it, you can just read whatever instructions your tie-dye kit comes in. It's quite simple to do. So this is all set and everything. So when I cut the strips and I went to stretch it, I pulled on it and it didn't stretch. Now zoom in a little bit. So you can see it's not stretching. It just kind of makes the edges look a bit frayed. And I'm doing this because I wanted to do some coasters. So I went ahead and crocheted one to be able to show you guys that even though it didn't stretch nicely the way I wanted it to, you can still crochet with it. And I do tend to cut my strips quite messily. Some people do measure it and it's very methodical about it, but I just cut mine messily and I kind of regretted it afterwards because it didn't stretch. So what I would say is test a piece of your t-shirt before, like the sleeve, and see if it stretches. So if it doesn't stretch nicely, you can then cut like neater strips, which I will do. And if it does stretch nicely, then it doesn't really matter. You just want the strips to be as close in size as possible. So this is the coaster. This is just one. I'm thinking of making a couple sets. I'm not too sure how much coasters I'll get out of this ball of jersey yarn, but I'll see. I'm hoping. I do tend to like to make 4 coasters, but I don't think I'll get that out of this. So I could just have a mixed tie-dye set, so I can have 2 from this ball and I can have 2 from this ball. And of course I will also have some photos at the end of this coaster, so you can see. And you can see like how with the edges were extremely neat, but I really like the look. It's quite unique and it's nice and chunky. And I will be making these coasters to sell, if you're wondering. So I'll put, once I've finished it and put it up on my site, I will put a link below so you can check that out if you want to. And I thought I would also show you these. This was from some denim yarn I made, again, many years ago. I think I made a video of this, and if I did and I can find it on my channel, I will link that in the iCard in the top right hand corner. But it's basically the same technique, and this is the coasters I made from that. So you can see it's a lot different. It looks a bit messier actually, and these will also be available on my site, and these are a little bit smaller. So that's the interesting thing. Like, I'm using the same kind of crochet stitches, but because this was thicker than, say, the denim yarn, it came out a bit bigger, as you can see there. And this one is actually my favorite. I really like the jersey yarn look. And I'm thinking of making some white ones as well, especially if you wanted to dye it yourself. So do stay tuned for that. So might as well get on with the video. I will be doing that in real time, most of it in real time, so you can kind of see what's going on. I won't do a voiceover this time. Okay, so what you want to do first, open it up so you can see I did like the spiral tie-dye. so that I would get as much as the colour spread out as possible. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut off the hem for this, and I'm also going to cut like from where the sleeves are, from where the sleeves start as well, because from here onwards it will be a bit tricky. Sorry, let me pull it down. From here onwards it will be a bit tricky for you to cut, but then you can still cut the sleeves, so that's what I did with this one, so that I would get the most of it. I cut the sleeves and did the same technique as well. So you can do that as well, and you can see why I use this t-shirt, because there's like holes and stuff in the sleeves. So you can see how it's not extremely even on the edges, but that's fine. You want the folded edge, like the side of the t-shirt at the top here. Oh, and one more thing, if you have a t-shirt that has seams on the side, that will be trickier to do. I've never had to use a t-shirt that does have seams on the side, but I know that can make it tricky. I think when it's at the seam, when there's a seam at the side, it doesn't stretch nicely how this one does. But then if your t-shirt won't stretch like this anyway, that's okay, if it's just going to turn out like, say, this one. So just be aware, just like check out the t-shirt, especially if you are buying a t-shirt for this. Try to get one with when there's no seams at the side, because that'll just make your life a bit easier. Okay, so you want to fold it up. You don't want it completely at the top. You do want it about, I would say, an inch or so from the top. And this is probably more than an inch. I'm terrible at eyeballing, by the way, but I think that's to do. I'm just shaking it out so it's folded nice and flatly, so that my scissors doesn't have any trouble cutting through, especially since now it's like 4 layers. Okay. So that is a little bit close. I would give it more, but it's fine like that. And once you've smoothed everything out, you can start to measure. And again, you can, it's not even on the sides, but that's fine. And I like to cut my strips, at least I like to mark when I'm cutting my strips about an inch. And if I go in or not, it's okay. I would say don't go under ½ an inch, because especially when you're going to stretch it like this, if it's under ½ an inch, it can be a little bit weak, so when you go to stretch it, it'll snap. And when that happens, I just had to connect it, and I'll show you how you can connect your strands if that does happen, or if you want to connect like the strands that you've made from the sleeves of the t-shirt. So it's not a huge problem, but you don't want it snapping, especially if you're going to crochet with it or knit with it. You want it to be durable enough, because you do have to be a little bit more firm when you're crochet, especially crochet. I mean, I don't knit, but when I'm crocheting, sometimes when I have to pull it through, I have to be a bit firm, and you don't want it to be weak and it snap in the middle of your project, because that will just drive you crazy. So I'm going to mark now. So when I'm starting at the ends, I think I'll start at this end, because this seems to be the neatest end. I'm using a pen, and that's okay, especially since it's dyed. If you're using a plain colored t-shirt, especially if it's light colored, you might want to use like tailor's chalk or something. I'm just going to kind of roughly mark just on this top bit. I don't have to mark here, because I'm not cutting that bit, a line, because this, it's not very neat. And then from here I can start to mark. I'm going to mark 1 inch. When you start off, I think I might go in a little bit actually. I'm just going to go in a bit. So you see I've put the lines when I'm already ignoring it. This is why things are always wonky. But anyway, I'm just going in a little bit, and you want to cut it, but you don't want to cut it all the way to the top. You want to cut to the top of this top layer. You just want to cut to the top of that, so that this section, and I'll zoom in, so you cut to the top of this section so that can fold down. Yeah, but you don't want to cut to the top of this. But you don't want to cut to the top of this, because leaving this part will then you'll be able to create a continuous strand of jersey yarn. So just to the top of here. And because I've gone in, if I was to do that, I'll be like 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go in again. And since the lines are there, even though I'm kind of eyeballing it, I am still able to stay kind of straight. And again, just cut to the top of this layer. Okay, so then that falls down, but you still leave this part. Sorry, I keep on going out of focus. So I'll just do that one more time, and I'll do that so you can see this top bit. I'm just going to do that one more time, and then I'll just put this into fast forward mode, pop on some music, so I can cut the rest of the strands, and I shall be back once everything is cut. And remember, just go nice and slow and steady, especially if you want it to stay straight. Okay. Okay, so that is all cut. So now for the magic part. So I'm shaking that down. So you can see this is where we didn't cut, and this is what's going to make it a continuous ball of yarn. So you want to split it up where it was like folded, and keep the non-cut part at the top. It doesn't have to be like neat or anything, you're just splitting it up for the next set of cutting. Okay, so we've gone to the end. Okay, and what I like to do, I like to use my arm for this part. Okay, so I'm just shaking it out so it's nice and even. Right. Okay, so you want to keep the non-cut part at the top of your arm, and what you're going to do is you're going to do diagonal cuts. So you don't want to cut it from one point to the other, so from like this part to this part. Actually, I'll show you lower down my arm, it's easier for you to see. So like here to here would be bad, because then you would just cut that and the sections would separate and you would no longer have a continuous ball of yarn. So you want to cut diagonal. So for the first cut, I'm starting from one end and I'm going diagonally to the other. So I'll just move that. And you're just going to continue going diagonal. And this will just create one long strip of yarn. So again, from one end to the other. And now it's kind of is easier now as you go along, because since you've got the diagonal, you're not going to want to cut straight, because then cutting straight would just chop that off. Okay, so now that everything's cut, I am going to pull from this end, and you're just going to see it's all one continuous line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly wrap this into a ball of yarn. So to do a ball of yarn, I start with 2 fingers. You can start with 4 if you like, but I tend to start with 2, especially since this is quite thick. I'm just going to wrap it around a couple times, and then once I've gotten it quite thick, zoom in, I'm going to wrap around the other way, and then from here I'm just kind of going to go round kind of diagonally. And if you want it to be kind of even, you can focus more on some areas, because sometimes, depending on how it wraps, it can be a little bit uneven, but I don't mind too much. You want to do is line it up a bit so there's a bit of an overlap. So I'll put that up close for you to see, just a bit around here. So I think that's just over 1/2 inch, and then you're going to fold it like in half evenly. Then you're going to cut a little slit in it. Your scissors, and then you can just unfold that. And if you feel as if you need to make a bigger slit, then you can, but that is fine for me. And then you're going to take, you see, because this is already in a ball, you're going to take the end of this one. So whatever piece of yarn is on the top, you're going to take that and you're going to pull it through the bottom, through the slit. And then you're going to just pull this, not too hard. You see, I think there was a bit too much overlap. There we are. And then that is nice and connected. That I did that kind of messy, and especially if you have a nice stretchy jersey, that you won't see the join as easily. But there we are, and that's nice and strong. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to click that bell button so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you would like to see me do any more of the DIY things, please do pop down in the comments. Especially if you have like another suggestion of what other kind of yarns I can make. I would love to hear. And you can also follow me on my social media pages like Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date on what other things I'm doing. And don't forget to keep an eye out for these new coasters. I can't wait until they're all finished and I can launch them. So, thanks again for watching, and please join me again for another arty video. Bye!